Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Blackwater Mo. Welcome back to Leonardo Oranges, where we give you fresh squeezed GTA 6 content on a semi-regular basis. And if you've seen the last video, we did a character profile of Boobie Ike, which I thought was pretty in-depth. That was inspired by Sav. I left his link in the description on that video. I'll link it here as well. But this time we want to do a character profile on Boobie's Ace Boon Coon, his second in command, Dre'Quan Priest, right? And when I looked into Boobie, I started looking at his name. Like Boobie was inspired by a real person. Ike was inspired by a real person, historical Miami street gangsters. And I started trying to do the same thing with Dre'Quan, and I was like, Dre, you got Dre and you got Quan. So you got legendary Miami producers Cool and Dre. And then you got the only person I could think of was Rich Homie Quan. And if you look at Dre'Quan, kind of Rich Homie Quan, maybe so. But he's also from Atlanta, which could be a Gloriana connection. Who knows? But it's not as cut and dry as it was with Boobie Ike. So with Dre'Quan, it's not really the rapper, right? He's not the rapper. He's more of the executive producer behind the scenes type of person. So that kind of took me out of the whole trying to compare him to rappers, because that's originally where my mind went. But he's not the artist. The real dimes are the artists. So we had to go another route. So let's look and see if, for one, he's inspired by anybody in the real world, or if he's just like a archetype, if that makes sense. So Rockstar actually tells us that Dre'Quan Priest isn't presented as some hardened kingpin. They describe him as more of a hustler than a gangster, right? Like he wasn't about that life, as the children would say. That's important. He sold drugs, but apparently the streets were never the real goal. Music was. Okay. Which this leads me to believe that music is going to play a larger role in this whole GTA 6 game, which is kind of cool, because I used to be into music, used to try to do music and all of those things. So this is like the GTA game that I've been waiting for. And we all know that the music scene in Miami is super influential on hip hop, early hip hop, and, present day hip hop. But streets were never the goal. Music was for Dre'Quan. Eventually, he started booking artists at Boobie Ike's strip club, the Jack of Hearts. Now he's partnered with Boobie on Only Raw Records, and they signed the real dimes. So look at this career progression that Rockstar created for this dude. Street hustler, then club promoter, then talent scout, then record executive. And now he's trying to turn an independent label into something legit. That's when I realized we've seen this before in real life. Not necessarily with one person, but throughout the entire history of Miami hip hop. Okay? First, let's address the obvious. Dre'Quan. Could the name itself contain references? Maybe. I wasn't able to find any, right? Like I said, we got Dre from Cool and Dre, but he's a producer. Like, he makes the beats, right? But they did come out of Miami, and they are related to or associated with people like Rick Ross, DJ Khaled, Lil Wayne, Fat Joe, Game, tons of people. Huge influence on hip hop. Eventually, they weren't just producing records either. They expanded into their own business ventures and label operations. So you got a prominent Miami music figure named Dre, right? And then there's Dre'Quan, like we talked about. Rich Homie Quan is the only person that I could think of. But he's an Atlanta / Gloriana rapper. Once again, a rapper, not necessarily a producer or an executive. So I don't think Daquan is really there. So I'm putting that firmly under theory. Dre'Quan, Dre plus Quan. That's interesting, right? But I wouldn't bet the house on it. Because I think there's a much bigger clue hiding in what Dre'Quan actually does. I originally started looking for rappers, right? And that might have been my first mistake because Dre'Quan isn't really a rapper. He's trying to be the guy behind the rappers, right? And Miami has a long history of exactly that kind of entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. Let's start with the OG, legendary OG, Uncle Luke. Before Luther Campbell became Uncle Luke, he was promoting shows. Sound like anybody? Then he becomes part of Luke 2 Live Crew. And then you got Luke Records, artist, promoter, businessman, label owner. Now jump forward. We got Ted Lucas. Ted Lucas, if you don't know, founder of Slip and Slide Records. This dude helped build an empire that would eventually be associated with artists like Trick Daddy, T Double D, right? Trina, Rick Ross, Plies. It's your little Plies, man. Ted Lucas is not the superstar standing in front of the camera. He's the guy trying to find, develop, and monetize that superstar. Sound familiar? Then you got another important Miami executive, E-Class, founder of Po' Boy Entertainment. That ecosystem eventually included names like Flo Rida, Briscoe, and other Miami artists. Not necessarily the guy holding the microphone, the guy building the infrastructure around the person holding the microphone. And suddenly, Dre'Quan starts making a whole lot more sense. So, finally, my theory. I don't think we're going to find one photograph of some Miami dude and say, that's Dre'Quan Priest. Boobie Ike might be different. His name potentially gives us some very specific historical figures. Dre'Quan feels like Rockstar took the entire Miami archetype and condensed it into one character. The independent music hustler. Some Uncle Luke, a little bit of Ted Lucas, some E-Class, maybe even some Cool and Dre, potentially pieces from other people who I haven't identified. If you do know, let us know in the comments. And then Rockstar modernized that archetype. Instead of discovering an artist through mixtapes, Dre'Quan is watching what's happening online. Instead of some traditional A&R department, this dude says, dancers are like my A&Rs. And that tells us everything, right? Think about what Dre'Quan is actually doing. He books talent at the Jack of Hearts. So every night he's surrounded by artists, DJs, dancers, promoters, people from the streets, people from the music industry. He's watching which records actually move the room. That's his market research. If you know anything about Southern hip hop, clubs have historically been incredibly important for breaking records. You think about the Magic Cities and how people talk about the Chitlin Circuit and hitting all of the clubs down there. So when Dre'Quan says dancers are like my A&Rs, that's funny, but it's also surprisingly realistic, right? Jack of Hearts isn't just some strip club, right? It's essentially only raw records. It's like their laboratory, right? Dre'Quan hears a song, tests it in a club, sees the reaction. DJs get behind it, find the artist, signs them, builds momentum online. And that's exactly where the real dimes come into the picture. Real dimes give Dre'Quan something he desperately needs, a hit. Rockstar tells us that Baylux and Roxy already have an audience. They've already built attention through social media. They already have some success, but they need something even bigger. And Dre'Quan needs them to become bigger because he's trying to establish only raw records, which creates an interesting little ecosystem. We got Boobie Ike, who provides the money, the infrastructure, the connections. We got Dre'Quan, who finds and develops the talent. We got the real dimes, the talent that provide the music, fame, and culture relevance. Boobie got the money. Dre'Quan has the ambition. Real dimes have the attention. Put those together, and you potentially have one of GTA 6's legitimate business empires being built during the game. So a way where we take the dirty money and make it clean. We know Boobie's money was dirty and the studio cleans the money. We know Dre'Quan started as a hustler trying to legitimize his business. And I think these two actually show Jason and Lucia how to legitimize their ill-gotten gains. This is where we leave confirmed information behind and we dive a little bit more into theory. So how did Jason and Lucia enter this world? Because I don't think Rockstar introduced all these interconnected characters just so Jason and Lucia can occasionally walk into a strip club. I think Dre'Quan could become a bridge character. We see him in the trailer with Jason looking at a phone, probably looking at some sort of reaction to the real Doms or maybe a new artist that they're potentially discovering. Look at everybody this dude potentially has access to. Speaking of Dre'Quan, he got access to Boobie, artists, DJs, club employees, promoters, street dudes, record execs, people with legitimate money, people with very illegitimate money. That's incredibly useful to two aspiring criminals. Imagine Jason and Lucia are still relatively small time. We meet early in the story. They end up doing some jobs connected to the Jack of Hearts. Maybe somebody owes Boobie some money. Maybe Dre'Quan needs something recovered. Maybe somebody robbed one of the artists. Maybe something needs to be transported without anybody asking questions. It's got Jason and Lucia written all over it. Dre'Quan likes how they operate. Boom. Big D appears on the map. You already know how GTA works. Now Dre'Quan starts calling. And this could give Rockstar some hilarious mission possibilities. Dre'Quan tells you, go pick up an artist. Simple enough. Until the artist has warrants or somebody stole Real Dom's recordings and we need to get them back. Maybe it's a rival label causing problems. Maybe somebody leaks a song. Maybe Real Doms are filming a music video, which we've seen several times in the trailer and in the images, and it goes completely sideways. Maybe Dre'Quan needs you to convince a DJ to play their record. And because it's a GTA, convince could mean a lot of things. These missions could start funny and relatively harmless, but slowly, Dre'Quan's success pulls Jason and Lucia into Boobie's organization. And we know this guy's all smiles until it's time to talk business. And that's where things get interesting. Boobie and Dre'Quan aren't the same. There's levels, right? There's something else I'm watching closely. Rockstar says Dre'Quan is partnered with Boobie, not simply working for him. And that's a distinction that could matter because right now their interests align. Dre'Quan only wants Only Raw Records to succeed. Boobie wants Only Raw Records to succeed. Real Doms want Only Raw Records to succeed. Everybody's happy. But imagine Real Doms actually blow up and now there's real money involved. Millions, contracts, publishing, touring, merch. Suddenly, Only Raw Records isn't Boobie's little side investment anymore. It's valuable. And Dre'Quan can start thinking, I built this, while Boobie's thinking, I paid for this. Now we got a problem. Because remember what Rockstar told us about Boobie. All smiles until it's time to talk business, right? Jason and Lucia could eventually find themselves standing directly between these two men. And depending on how much, options or choice GTA 6 gives us, we might have to potentially pick a side. There's another relationship that could become important as well. Lucia and the Real Doms. And we'll probably dive into this later when we talk more about the Real Doms. But Jason doesn't immediately feel like somebody who's going to be hanging out backstage at a Real Dom show. Lucia, potentially. I could see that. Imagine Lucia develops an actual friendship with Baylux and Roxy, not mission-given relationships, like actual relationships like little Jacob or something. A life outside of Jason, her own contacts, her own friends, her own connections. And Real Doms could introduce another complication into Jason and Lucia's lives. Fame. Because Jason and Lucia are criminals. Real Doms are becoming celebrities. Those two worlds don't necessarily mix very well. Imagine Jason and Lucia accidentally appearing in the background of a live stream, and maybe somebody records them at the Jack of Hearts and photograph with the real dimes. All of that seems harmless, except what if the police are looking for them, right? Now, Rockstar's social media system isn't something that's just funny or happening on your phone. It's potentially part of the story. And, fame could become dangerous. And this is where I think Rockstar could be doing something deeper with all of these characters. Look at their trajectories: Boobie Ike, street life, money, legitimate businesses; Dre'Quan, drug dealing, promoting, record executive; Real Dimes, street hustling, music, social media fame; and then Jason and Lucia, robbers. We don't know where they go from here. Yet to be discovered. But everybody around them is trying to transform illegal money, street credibility, or hustling into something sustainable, something legitimate, possibly. Boobie has seemingly already done it. Dre'Quan is doing it, and the Real Dimes are trying to do it. And Jason and Lucia, I imagine, are still at the beginning, which raises what could be one of GTA 6's biggest questions. Can you actually escape the life you got there? Because Boobie might represent what Jason and Lucia think they want: money, property, business, power, nobody telling you what to do. But maybe Boobie also represents the catch, because even after supposedly becoming legitimate, he's still connected to that same world. Maybe you don't actually escape. Maybe you just get a nicer office. So, who is Dre'Quan Priest based on right now? I don't think it's one answer. The Dre could potentially contain a little bit of Cool and Dre DNA. Quan, I don't really feel like is Rich Homie Quan, but that's the only Quan, famous Quan that I know that's Southern. The much stronger connection that Dre'Quan represents is he's a part of Miami tradition, stretching from people like Uncle Luke, Ted Lucas with Slip and Slide, E-Class with Po' Boy, to producers, promoters, and independent executives who turn Miami hip hop into an industry. And Rockstar's placed its version of that character directly beside a former street legend, a strip club, two aspiring female rappers, City Girls, and eventually Jason and Lucia. So, I don't think the most interesting question is who is Dre'Quan based on. I think it's why did Rockstar put Dre'Quan in this story? And my theory is Dre'Quan could be that person who introduces Jason and Lucia to the business of Vice City, not just robbing, not just surviving, owning a piece of it. And that could make him way more important to GTA 6 than he currently appears. So let me know what you think. Do you see the Cool and Dre connection in Dre'Quan's name? Do you think he's based on somebody completely different that we haven't found? If you do know, let me know in the comments. And what happens if Only Raw Records actually becomes successful during GTA 6? Because if Boobie, Dre'Quan, and Real Dimes are all a part of the same storyline, I think we may have just found one of the major criminal business arcs hiding in plain sight. I'm certain, actually. And next up, GTA 6 Character Files, we'll investigate the Real Dimes or the City Girls or Cardi B or Glorilla or whoever they are a combination of. If we're right about what Rockstar is doing with the Miami music history, then those seem very obvious to a real world inspiration. Like I said, City Girls. But, it's your boy Blackwater Mo. If you like these character profiles, like I said, it's all speculation. It's just me doing a little bit of digging and trying to connect some dots that potentially may not be there, but sometimes they are, and we'll eventually see in less than 10 days, or I guess less than 100 days, how right I am or how wrong I am. But come back to this video and let me know. Be sure to like and subscribe so we can run up those subscribers so I can live stream the game when it comes out. Last video I posted, we had like 7 subscribers, and now we got like 17. So we done pushed up 10 of them. Keep running up those subscriber numbers so your boy can live stream the game when it comes out in less than 100 days. Be sure to like and subscribe. It's your boy Blackwater Mo, and hit the link in the description for any other video. Just disregard that. I ain't got no links in the description. Ignore that part. Blackwater Mo. Like and subscribe. Hold up. Lay on the yeah. Sweet on the tongue.